Peace, love, and light. Coming on here to bring a message. If you find this message resonates with you, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. I'm coming on here to speak a little bit about Vodou as a spiritual practice. I often mention this spiritual practice on the channel, yet I am aware that many are not aware of what Vodou is. Vodou is a spiritual practice, and Vodou is practiced in Haiti. Haiti is actually, it's the whole island is called Haiti, and recently it is now the part of the island that practices Vodou. Okay, I'm not sure about the DR as far as their spiritual practice, but IT practices Vodou. Vodou is a spiritual practice that is a practice that is traditionally a Taino practice, a Taino Arawak practice. It's considered to be an African spiritual practice. Okay, so the term Vodou is it has a very significant meaning. Vodou means one who has peace in the spiritual realm, that is able to become a light in the physical. So a lot of times we refer to people as light beings and star seeds and such. I feel like Vodou kind of brings, the origin of that term to let us know where that comes from. Well, how is it that you are able to become a light? One becomes a light because they are at peace in the spiritual realm. And this is what the term Vodou means. Vodou comes from the word Vododun Yewe, which means that one who is at peace in the spiritual and is able to become a light in the physical realm. So what does this mean? This means that everything has a spiritual basis. Okay, everything has a spiritual basis. I would even go as far to say that everything is spiritual, first and foremost, and then it manifests itself in the physical. All right. In terms of my personal experiences with Vodou, many of you may know that I am not formally trained. I have not been formally I have not gone through formal initiation. I was born, with an keen insight, which I now use in my spiritual practice. And I communicate with the spirit realm, and the spirit realm communicates with me. It's very interesting because many actually see this even in my videos as I speak. Oftentimes, you will notice that nature responds back a lot of times when I'm saying things, and a lot of folks may not actually understand this. Yet, those who are able to see, they can see that, that is what's happening. And I believe that I've been this way since I was younger, and as I continue to practice my spiritual gifts, then it becomes a lot more, a lot stronger. And, in terms of how I learned about Vodou, what Vodou first and foremost is our connection to spirit. So I feel like I've always had a connection to the spirit realm. I believe that I believe and know that I have been chosen by the divine to fulfill a task on this planet, and that's exactly what I'm doing. And so me learning about it, really, it's more so how I reconnected with something that's always been a part of me. And now it is becoming a lot more like the wheel that is steering, everything that I do. And Vodou as a spiritual practice is one that, many associate with African people, the African people being in captivity. And a lot of people, a lot of our ancestors use this spiritual practice to free themselves from colonial oppression. This is something that many don't know. Many oftentimes associate the spiritual practice with all types of negativity, and this is because they have yet to understand what this spiritual practice is truly about. And if you really think about it, how can something that free you from bondage, that free you from harm, be something that is negative? Yet it's something that we've been told. So yes, many of us have been told that, the very thing that empowers us, that makes us who we are, the very thing that connects us to the spirit realm is something that's negative. This is definitely some sort of indoctrination that's been imposed upon us as African people, people of African descent. And, many are actually rebelling against this view and notion of Vodou, and are taking their power back to reclaim the positivity in this spiritual practice. Many have actually, rejected the religion that's been imposed upon the people of Haiti, which is Christianity. Christianity is the imposed spiritual practice, and Vodou is more of a traditional practice than Christianity is. And so the more you see people embrace themselves and their identity, the more connected they are with their true identity, and the more they reject these oppressive views of who they are. There are actually several scholars that have made it a point to study the detrimental effects that Christianity has had upon people of African descent, people of Taino and Arawak descent, the Haitian people. And, there's been a lot of, advances made to project our traditional spiritual practice in a positive light. And this is basically, it's helping the culture, it's helping this spiritual practice. And the more we embrace our spiritual practice, the more we see the detrimental effects of the imposed spiritual practice is upon the people of African descent. And in fact, it was this spiritual practice that was imposed upon the Haitian people to make them, or to make them more subjective, to make them more I believe the word is not subjective, to make them more subordinate, okay, to make them more compliant in order for them to continue to live in captivity. And at some point, they rejected these notions, and this is how they're able to become a lot more empowered. So I believe the more African people of African descent, study their origins, the more they will see the detrimental effects that the imposed religion, which is Christianity, has had on the people of Haiti and the people of African descent. It is the same spiritual practice, the practice that is imposed upon the Haitian people, that is the basis for the educational system, which is currently failing. It is the basis for a lot of the systems that are in place. And so, when we look at a country and a culture that has undergone a lot of, challenging times, to say the least, a lot of what we tend to see is that the spiritual system that is that has basically has its grip on this island is the root is actually causing a lot more harm than good to the people. Okay, and we see that African spiritual practice. So we see that the African traditional practices, the indigenous spiritual practices, oftentimes allow the people to be empowered and take their power back. And oftentimes that is the reason why Vodou has received such, just negative types of views or perspectives. All right, so that I would say, the more the Haitian people embrace their traditional cultures, and we see this through various examples of them being the first free empire, black empire that have existed, that it is because of them embracing their traditional spiritual practice. It is because they embraced their identity that they were able to become who they are. And as we can see, they are continuing to pay the price for what they have done as a people. They have, the people that they freed themselves from have made it a point to make them an example to the world, that if they choose to embrace their own identity instead of the identity of those who choose to oppress them, that they're going to make them go through unimaginable types of things. And so is this to say that the Haitian people should not embrace their African spiritual practice? No, it is more of a reason for them to embrace it more so now than ever. So that is that. So hopefully a lot more people will see what embracing one's identity can potentially do and how it can potentially help. And it is only when we reject who we are that we return back into systems of enslavement. Peace, love, and divine light.